Wedging. Super duper important thing to do in order to prepare to work with your clay so it's ready to be made into your sculpture or whatever you might be making. So I'm going to show you how it works and then explain why it's important. So when you first get your clay, knock it into kind of like a long box shape like that, so it's easy to see the edges. And take your, the meatiest part of your palm right underneath your thumb. This is going to be the part that's doing a lot of the work. And it's also helpful to imagine that you have a tube in between the center part of your palms, like a paper towel tube that this clay is going to rotate on. So I'm going to take this meaty part of my palm and I'm going to place it on the edge that's closest to me on the wedging table. Though this could be done at any table. I happen to be working at the wedging table right now. I'm going to take the meaty part of my palms and place it on that edge, and I'm going to push back. And then I'm going to roll the clay forward so that the next edge is now facing me, and place the palms again on top of that edge like this and push back again. And that is going to be repeated again and again and again. So it's this rotating action of pushing forward and rolling back, pushing forward and rolling back at this point. Minimum, I would do this rotation between 30 and 60 times, right? So about a minute of working with the clay. And the reason why we do this, the reason why we prepare this clay to work with it is twofold. One, it pops air bubbles, which is in your clay, that you don't want because it can make your project explode. Two, it makes the consistency of your clay uniform. So if there's dry parts and there's soft parts or wetter parts, when you get clay out of the bin for the first time, it can be kind of a mix of a couple different consistencies. And so this wedging really mixes them together so that the consistency is uniform. So you know if you are wedging well if it starts to take the shape of a ram's head. So the clay has been spiraling on the sides, kind of like the horns of a ram, and the front is sort of taking the shape of a snout of a ram. So that's a good clue that you're doing it well. A lot of times what I'll see is students whose hands rotate onto the top and push like this and are pushing down instead of pushing back. And what starts to happen is kind of this smashed hammerhead shape, and it's not really doing the same thing in order to pop your air bubbles and make your clay uniformly consistent in terms of its moisture. So once again, I'm going to knock it into kind of a box shape. Put my hands on the sides, push back, roll forward, push back, roll forward, and do that for approximately a minute or more. So how do you know if your clay is well wedged enough ready to work with? Take a piece off, roll it into a coil, and if you can bend it and it does not break or tear, but rather bends and keeps its shape, that's a good sign that you're ready to go to use the work, or to use the clay for your artwork. So you both have kind of the estimated time for doing the wedging in that check. You'll also notice I've got my legs separated so that I'm bending my knees and putting my whole body into the clay. I'm standing up while I'm doing it. So it's not just my arms working, because it's kind of a workout after a while, depending on how soft or hard your clay is. So standing up and keeping this position is really helpful. The other reason that the wedging table has this wire right here is there's a second way to do wedging that's even a little more fun. That involves slicing the clay like this and then slamming it down on top of itself and doing that again and again. I call it the slice and slam method of wedging. I don't know if that's really what it's called, but I like to combine the two methods. So I'll slice and slam a few times, maybe 10 times, for example, and then work it with this more rotational ram's head method. So what's really happening with the clay is helpful to see if you have two different clay bodies. So here I have a stoneware clay, and here I have a B-mix clay. They're both stoneware actually, but you can tell that they're different colors, so there's a different mineral makeup. This one's also a little harder than this softer B-mix. So if I were to put these two together, and wedge, my ultimate goal is to not be able to see a color contrast anymore. So between those two methods, what I will get is clay that's totally uniform in its dryness, and in this case, in its color. And I can tell if I cut it in half, I'm not there yet, but you can start to see the action that's occurring, where the clay is getting rotated under and around, over and over, and eventually it will get mixed all together. That's it.